All right, this is overall average rate. Now I'm going to give you a hypothetical situation and then we'll cover this here. Imagine if I got in my car and for 5 minutes I drove at 100 miles an hour and then I slowed down and for 10 hours I drove 30 miles an hour. I can't take the 30 miles an hour plus the 100 miles an hour and say 130 divided by 2, 65 miles per hour is my average. It's not, because I spent a lot more time driving at the slower rate than I did the faster rate. So if I look at that, I remember the overall average rate would have to be the overall distance divided by the overall time. Now let's look at the example problem. 38.7, and I shortened the problem and took one of the actors out because that's really irrelevant. So Frank drives for 100 miles at 50 miles per hour. Then drives for 180 miles at 60 miles per hour. Now, if these two distances were the same, sure, I could average these, but they're not, because their distances are different. So I need to go ahead and say overall average is not equal to 50 plus 60 divided by 2. That'd be very easy at 55 miles per hour, and then I'd be done. But Frank drove more distance at 180 miles. And so because those two distances are different and my two speeds are different, I can't just use it that way. I have to remember the overall distance. So I'm going to look at this and say, well, I needed to find out the overall time. The distance is going to be really easy. It's 180 plus the 100, and that gave me 280. But I need to find my overall time. In order to find time, I remember that I can say 100 miles divided by 50 miles per hour. That's going to give me 2 hours. So it took him 2 hours for the first part of the trip. The second part of the trip, he drove at 180 miles at 60 miles per hour. That's going to give me 3 hours. So he spent different amounts of time driving at these different rates. So I'm going to look at this and say my overall time will be time 1 plus time 2, and my overall distance will be distance 1 plus distance 2. So I'm going to say 100 plus 180 is 280, 2 plus 3, which is 5, 280 divided by 5, and that's 56 miles per hour is the actual overall average of the trip. Now, he may not have spent any time actually driving at 56 miles per hour, but that's the overall average. If you have a little computer in your car, like mine does, on a long trip, you can set that overall average. But if you sit at a light for any length of time or you're stuck in traffic, your overall average drops considerably because you spent so much time at the lower rate. And the computer does that automatically, realizing that overall distance divided by overall time will equal the overall average rate.